Falling off the rooftop with the bully we accidentally crossed. Dressed as an ancient court lady. The tyrant has an eccentric personality and is moody. They unanimously decided to push me out and let me be the first to die, oh no, to sleep. But they didn't know that 3 years ago, I was pushed down the stairs by them and became a vegetative state, lying in a hospital bed for a year. At that time, I traveled through it once. I am very familiar with this palace. It's just that 10 years have passed here, and things are different. I was going to find the little eunuch who was huddled with me to keep warm, and with his intelligence, he should have become a little chief. But before he could start acting, he was discovered by the group of bullies. They twisted me to the emperor. I looked up at the tyrant tremblingly, and after just one glance I was stunned. Little Ikoko. 1. After being told that I was the one sleeping tonight, the whole room was relieved. Great, I lived another day. They were only happy for a second and frowned again. Someone couldn't help but curse. I really can't stay in this hellish place. How can I leave? She died for us tonight, what about tomorrow? What about the day after tomorrow? I can't stand it anymore. One of them rushed up and slapped me on the head. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, how could we have fallen off the rooftop, and how could we be here? She almost collapsed and punched and kicked me. I can only hold my head so that I can get hurt less. I have been bullied for many years, and I am very good at being beaten. The leader came up and stopped her. Don't fight, you left marks on her face, and the tyrant blamed her, we won't survive. They glared at me viciously and walked away. The atmosphere in the room became desperate and anxious. I huddled in the corner and looked at them. But an indescribable pleasure welled up in my heart. Before they were more noble than me, but now they. It's the same for everyone. 2. I am now a showgirl who has just entered the palace, but yesterday, I was still a student who had just finished the college entrance examination of Jinshio Middle School. 3 years in high school, I was bullied for 3 years. Ugly photos taken by bullies are threatened. After the college entrance examination, they invited me to the rooftop and smiled ugly. Don't think that if you graduate, we can't do anything about you. I heard that you are going to apply for a university. Do you know that you used to lick my shoes like a dog? Duan Yuan slapped her phone in my face. Why don't you even dare to open your eyes? Now the volunteer filling system has not been closed, you go and change the volunteer. She patted me on the face and said lightly, you should be grateful to Dade when you go to college with me. Even after graduating, they still don't want to let me go. I held my head, their hideous smiles in front of me, and in my mind was the video on their mobile phone of me being forced to give up my dignity. Anger overwhelmed my reason. I thought, let's just die together. I rushed at them, hugged them and climbed over the railing together, and fell off the roof of the building. But I didn't expect to open our eyes again, and we would be here. Became an ancient court lady. The 4 of us happened to be in the same room. After the initial collapse and despair, they could only calm down and begin to seek life for themselves. But the more I inquired, the more shocked I became. This is an imaginary world that does not belong to any dynasty we know. Today's Emperor Yuan Yu is a tyrant with a gloomy personality. Going to sleep for him is no different from sending him to death. Duan Yuan and the others tacitly pushed me out. Let me be the first to die. Outside the door, it was getting dark. I glanced at the window, which was not closed tightly, and the evening breeze blew in through the gap. And in front of the window, a lamp was placed. The candlelight flickered, flickering brightly and dimly. 3. It's out of water. It's out of water. Chushio Palace is out of water. Come on. Chushio Palace was in chaos, and the eunuchs and palace maids hurried over with buckets. Duan Yuan coughed loudly, her whole face was smoked black. She was dragged out of the room by the eunuch and collapsed on the ground for a long time. And I took advantage of this time to secretly change into the palace maid's clothes and slip away. Strange dynasties, strange places. I traveled through the huge harem and finally found a hidden dog hole in the corner. Lying on the ground and getting out. Duan Yuan and the others didn't know that 3 years ago, they teased me and caused me to fall down the stairs and become a vegetative state for a year. And because they have a superior family background, and their parents are successful people with heads and faces, this matter was finally judged to be my own accidental fall, and I thought I was unlucky. At that time, I had already traveled. I lay in a hospital bed in the real world for a year, and I was a palace maid in this palace for 3 years, trembling, and not daring to make a mistake. Fortunately, I met a little eunuch. His situation is worse than mine. I can't eat enough to wear every day, and the whole person is as thin as a monkey, with only a pair of black eyes. I couldn't bear it, so I secretly left half a steamed bun for him at every meal. After getting along for a long time, this sympathetic teenager is also willing to say a few words to me. He said that he was working in Kulingxian. There is a cold palace, no wonder he is treated so badly. But I found that this kid is very smart. Will quietly provoke those palace maids and eunuchs who bully him. He would pretend to be a ghost and let the eunuchs who had ghosts in their hearts take the initiative to bring him food. I followed him and rubbed a lot of delicious food. Our 2 servants at the bottom of the palace huddled together to keep warm, and life was much better than before. Just when I thought I could get better and better, I broke through Xiao Yuko's secret. I was lucky that day, and the nobleman was happy and rewarded me with a few pieces of pastry. I had never seen such a beautiful thing, so I carefully ate 1 piece, and the other piece was wrapped in a handkerchief by me, ready to give to Xiao Yuzi. I ran to Kulingxian while it was dark, but I couldn't find him anywhere. The ghost messenger went to the backyard and found Xiao Yuzi in front of an abandoned well. He was throwing a mun into the well. Under the moonlight, his face was splattered with blood, and his calm expression revealed madness. The pastry I was holding in my hand fell to the ground. The slightest movement alarmed him, and he turned his head to look over suddenly. After seeing that it was me, the expression on his face suddenly became strange. The fingers hanging at his side trembled slightly, and he stared at me so straight. I only hesitated for a moment and rushed up. Lying by the well, I saw the face of the deceased. He is the little chief eunuch in charge of chores in the harem, who is rampant and bullies people on weekdays. He was thrown at the bottom of the well, the body twisted. I calmed down and pointed to the stone slab next to the wall, pressed the stone slab up. I couldn't move alone, so I scolded Xiao Yuzi, "Why are you stupid?" He came back to his senses and walked over slowly. We worked together to cover the stone slabs on the abandoned well. I sat on the ground exhausted, and when I looked up, Xiao Yuzi was looking at me with interest. "Aren't you afraid of me?" I shook my head. "Don't be afraid, he must be bullying you." Xiao Yuzi looked at me and suddenly smiled. "You are." My heart was beating hard. I lied to him. "Actually, I'm afraid." I was afraid that I would turn my head and run away, and if I was caught up by him, I would kill and silence him, so I had the courage to rush up and help him dispose of the corpse. I buried this matter in my heart, as I always did to him. He also seems to be the little eunuch who doesn't like to talk and is thoughtful. Cui Lingshuan's abandoned well has become a tacit secret between us. Xiao Yuzi and I have a closer relationship. Sometimes, in front of me, he occasionally smiled. 3. That kid is so smart and ruthless. After so many years, he must have been in a good position. I have to ask him for help. Let's see if he can think of a way to send me out of the palace. This palace will eat people, I really can't stay any longer. I got out of the dog hole and ran all the way. But standing at the door of Kulingxian, my heart was cold to the bottom. This place is blocked. Qi Gairan, who was imprisoned here, died of illness a long time ago. I stopped a passing palace maid and quietly inquired about Xiao Yuzi's whereabouts. As soon as she heard my name, her face turned pale with fright. How can there be a eunuch in the palace who dares to call this name? Isn't this a violation of your Majesty's taboo? Where are you a palace maid? Don't harm me. She glared at me fiercely, turned her head and left. I was left alone and stopped in place. I wanted to understand what she said and I felt annoyed. Why did you forget? Now this tyrant's surname is Yuan and his name is Yu, and Xiao Yuzi has violated his taboo, so he naturally wants to change his name. What can be changed? Where is he working as an errand boy now? I don't know anything. The retreat was cut off, and I ran around the palace like a headless fly. It didn't take long for me to be caught by the guards. The chief eunuch walked out from behind the guards. He squinted. Miss Song. Where is this going? I was taken back to Chushio Palace. When Duan Yuan and others saw me, they surrounded me all of a sudden. They flattered the chief eunuch with great flattery. Father-in-law, you see, this fire in Chushio Palace was deliberately caused by someone. Songwu has ulterior motives, extremely dangerous. We almost died in the fire. My father-in-law has to make the decision for us. The chief eunuch looked at us with a smile. Your Majesty already knows the news of Chushio Palace's water. He is interested tonight, and wants to interrogate him personally. Girls, let's go over together. Hearing this, there was silence up and down Chushio Palace. Duan Yuan's face turned pale, and she couldn't help but take a step back. The reputation of the tyrant was learned from the memories of the original body on the first day we came. I heard that he has a strange personality, and is unpredictable. When you are happy, you can be rewarded with 1,000 taels of silver. But once you get angry, you can really cut off people's heads casually. But no one dared to persuade him yet. In the court, the qualified and courageous ministers were almost killed by him. Duan Yuan and the others wished I could die, and they were afraid of seeing him. But the chief manager can't supervise so much. He raised his hand and waved his hand, and the guards stepped forward and pushed us out of Chushio Palace. A group of more than a dozen of us were taken to the Imperial Garden. The emperor was drinking in the moon viewing pavilion. He was not wearing a dragon robe, but a dark broad-sleeved brocade robe, and his hair was loosely resting on his shoulders. The figure is thin, and the fingers holding the wine glass are long and well-proportioned. He lowered his head slightly, and we could only see his smooth and white chin. I didn't dare to look at it more, so I shrank my head and knelt on the ground. Someone around me has already started to tremble. The tyrant asked casually. When Chushio Palace was running away, a showgirl took advantage of the chaos and ran away. The chief eunuch replied in a low voice, yes. Where did you go? I don't know if it's my delusion. The chief eunuch seemed to hesitate for a moment, and then reported, Cui Lingxian, the servant has already brought someone to chase him back. The tyrant rubbed the wine glass. The aura of the whole body suddenly became gloomy. He raised his eyes and looked over, and now not only the showgirls, but also the eunuchs and palace maids who were serving on the side knelt down together. Your Majesty, calm your anger. The chief eunuch looked at Duan Yuan. Didn't you just have something to say in Chushio Palace? Why don't you say it now? You'd better make it clear, maybe this little life can still be saved. Duan Yuan's voice was trembling. Your Majesty, spare your life. She raised her finger to me. It's her. It was she who set fire to Chushio Palace, and it was she who took advantage of the chaos to break into Kulingxian. As her voice fell, a guard stepped forward and escorted me out of the crowd. Thrown at the front. I knelt on the ground and didn't dare to raise my head. I'm thinking, I'm afraid I won't be able to live right now. What should I say to pull Duan Yuan and the others to hell together? As he was thinking, a corner of a dark robe appeared in front of him. The tyrant didn't know when he walked down the pavilion. I heard him say, lift up your head. I hesitated for only a second when I heard the sound of a knife drawn behind me. In panic, he immediately looked up. I was stunned when I met the tyrant's gaze. This face. Little Ikuko. Extremely surprised, my voice changed tone. My shout made the eunuchs and guards around me change their faces. Bold. You don't want to live anymore. The chief eunuch turned pale with fright from me. He wiped his cold sweat and waved his hand. How dare you be disrespectful to your majesty? Come. Quickly drag this bold woman down and beat her to death. I was stunned and realized that I had just made a fatal mistake. The whole person froze, not daring to move. And His Majesty, who should have been furious, froze like me. After a few seconds, he rolled his eyes. Look at me with lower eyes. This time, his eyes were no longer as godless as a dead man, but seriously, with inexplicable emotions. The chief eunuch looked at his expression and stopped the guards who were about to step forward. Your Majesty, look at them. What should I do? Yuan Yu restrained his expression. I am in a good mood today, I don't want to kill anyone. That. Yuan Yu raised his hand lazily and clicked a few times at random. These people, take them to the Hanchuan Palace, and the rest of the people, kick them out of the palace. He is quite good at it. Left me and the other 3 bullies precisely. 4. On the way to the Hanchuan Palace, the leading eunuch smiled and said, Don't lose face, you can enter this Hanchuan Palace, there will be more opportunities to soar in the future. Human. But his life was still in the hands of the emperor. Once traveled through 3 years, I saw too many so-called nobles fall from the pursuit of thousands of people into the endless hell. Their prosperity and decline are all related to the joys, sorrows and sorrows of the emperor too. It's horrible. I was silent and only quickened my pace to keep up. But the eunuch's words took root in someone's heart. We can't go back, so let's think about how to live, and live a good life. Jiang Min is the worst of the 3 of them, and the one with the most material background. She touched the jade bracelet she was wearing on her hand. On the way to Hanchuan Palace, didn't we meet a concubine? Do you see what she is wearing on her head? It was all gold and precious stones, and the clothes worn on the body were shining, like gold and silver thread embroidered. Her face showed yearning. Duan Yuan mocked her, Don't know how you will die then. Jiang Min was a little unhappy, as long as I don't die, I'll definitely be fine. And the tyrant didn't look so unreasonable yesterday. I didn't even kill her. Her voice fell, and their eyes fell on me in unison. They were all puzzled why I was still alive after such a big disaster. I was also confused. The next second I blurted it out at that time, I already regretted it. I was different in age and voice from the palace maids back then. It's completely 2 people. If I say that I am traveling through time or borrowing a corpse to return to my soul, Yuan Yu is afraid that he will execute me immediately. He once told me that he did not believe in ghosts and gods, was not afraid of ghosts and gods, and did not respect ghosts and gods. The origin of my identity cannot be explained. And Yuan Yu, he is not the little Yuzi I know. Since he can be an emperor, he is definitely not a eunuch. He lied to me at the beginning. How am I going to survive in this palace? Does Yuan Yu still remember the little palace maid who used to be? My mind is in a mess. Forcibly ignored Duan Yuan's gaze. Now that we are in the same situation, they don't dare to bully me at will anymore. So I closed my eyes and got ready to get a good night's sleep first. I may not be alive tomorrow. The 10th day of living in the Hanchuan Palace. The little eunuch came to the palace to report the good news. He said that Yuan Yu turned over Jiang Min's sign, and asked her to prepare well. Jiang Min was a little scared but a little excited. After the eunuch left, Jiang Min went to dress up. Duan Yuan frowned and looked at her. Do you really think you're going to fly up the branches and become a phoenix? Jiang Min sneered, What? Jealous of me? Duan Yuan smiled angrily. When you come back alive, I will consider whether to be jealous of you. After dark, Jiang Min was carried away by a sedan chair. There are only 3 of us left in the Hanchuan Hall. Another girl, Lin Shuiyao, was a little envious of Jiang Min. If she can really please the emperor, will she be a step higher than us tomorrow? Maybe you can still make a noble person. Duan Yuan glanced at her and didn't speak. After a while, he pushed her away and walked up to me. I have something to ask you. I looked up at her. I remember you stayed in the hospital for a year when you were a freshman in high school, and you were a little crazy during the time after you were discharged. Meeting her gaze, I asked, what exactly are you trying to say? Have you ever been here? Her expression suddenly became excited. Your surprise when you saw the tyrant is not fake. Do you know him? You have a friendship, don't you? How did you get out of here in the first place? She has too many questions. I don't want to answer any of them. So he looked at her with a smile. You are afraid. Duan Yuan, I really didn't expect that one day you would be afraid too. Her face turned red and her eyes widened. It looks hideous. Kneel down and kowtow to me to admit your mistake, and I'll tell you how to leave. Duan Yuan raised her head sharply and stared at me. His face trembled slightly, obviously falling into extreme entanglement. After a while, perhaps the instinct to survive prevailed. I saw her legs bend down little by little. She knelt in front of me. I'm sorry, it was my fault for what happened before. She kowtowed to me expressionlessly. I don't feel the slightest pleasure. After all, these are just these, and they can't make up for the harm they have caused me. But I am a trustworthy person. Kill yourself. Duan Yuan, what? If you commit suicide, you can go back. Are you lying to me? She looked at me hesitantly. You want to trick me into committing suicide to take revenge on me, don't you? I smiled. Whatever you think, I'll tell you the way anyway. Duan Yuan looked at me angrily, and was about to say something more when the door was suddenly pushed open. Oh no. Lin Shuiyao rushed in with a frightened expression. Seeing Duan Yuan kneeling in front of me, I paused all of a sudden. Duan Yuan stood up and frowned and looked at her. What's wrong? Speak. Lin Shuiyao came back to her senses. She pointed to the outside of the Hanchuan palace and stammered, Jiangmin. Dead. When we went out, Jiangmin's body had not yet been carried away. We caught up and saw a bloody female corpse carried by the eunuch. I had the courage to inquire about the cause of her death. The eunuch shook his head. I don't know, Your Majesty seems to have asked her a few words before asking her a few words, and then let someone drag her down and beat her to death. We stopped where we were, only to feel cold all over. 5. For the next few days, I didn't dare to be idle. I inquired about Yuan Yu's life experience. Most people avoided talking about it, but there was an old lady who was about to leave the palace who accepted my money and said a few words to me. Your Majesty was once the fourth prince, and his biological mother was Qigairan. Shortly after Qigui gave birth to him, he committed a serious crime, was disliked by the late emperor, and was beaten into the cold palace. He was also implicated and became the most unfavored prince in the palace. He was sent to the queen. The queen is kind and amiable, but she is the master of the harem, and there are too many things to deal with on weekdays, so it is inevitable that she will be negligent to the fourth prince. The old lady didn't seem to be afraid of Yuan Yu very much. The tone and expression even had a hint of pity. She said that Yuan Yu often sneaked out and wandered around Kulingxian. Sometimes he disappeared for several days, and no one came to him. Since Qigairan was imprisoned in Kulingxian, he has become a little delirious. She didn't recognize anyone. I can't even recognize my own son. The fourth prince sometimes wears the clothes of a little eunuch and sneaks in to talk to her. The old lady paused. Later, Cui Lingxian lost a fire one night, and Qigairan lost his life in the sea of fire. Since then, the fourth prince seems to have changed into a different person. He became diligent and studious, gentle as jade, and won the appreciation of the late emperor with a flood control strategy. The old lady didn't say how Yuan Yu became emperor. It's just through her hesitant expression, I guess that his path to the throne must be full of thorns and blood. When asked about his preferences, the old lady said, I used to be able to think about a thing or two, but now, no one can figure it out, and no one dares to think about it. I thought for a while, what did he like before? Old lady, in the year he first ascended the throne, he often went to sit on a dry well in Kulingxian, and he sat for a long time. By the way, he used to like to eat osmanthus cake. I haven't made osmanthus cake for a long time. This is still what I learned from a chef in the imperial dining room when I traveled through before. When I first started making it, I always couldn't control the heat. It was either too sweet or tasteless. Those defective products were taken to Kulingxian by me, and all of them were stuffed into Xiaoyuzi. He choked a little. I handed him water. Tomorrow. I will definitely do better tomorrow. He slowly ate all the osmanthus cakes, then looked up at me. If you want to enter the imperial dining room so much, do you also think this cold palace is eerie and scary, and you don't want to stay here? I looked at him and slapped him. What are you thinking? I just think there is a lot of oil and water in the imperial dining room. I pinched his thin arm. I'll go into the imperial dining room when I turn around and bring you some meat to eat. If you grow more meat, it will look better. He was stunned, and after a long time, he lowered his head and smiled softly. You. Do you think I look good? Yes, you are the best-looking little eunuch I have ever seen in this palace. I tried to do it a few times in the small kitchen of Hanshuan Hall, but I didn't forget this craft. I looked at the freshly made osmanthus cake and turned around and left satisfied. But I found Duan Yuan standing at the door of the small kitchen. I don't know how long I had been looking at me. What are you doing? Does it have anything to do with you? Duan Yuan was silent, but her eyes fell on the plate of osmanthus cake. In the evening, a little eunuch came to announce the decree. He too said, "Your Majesty has turned the brand again." This time it was Duan Yuan who was going to sleep. After the little eunuch left, Duan Yuan's face turned pale, and she fell on the chair. Lin Shuiyao looked at her with lingering fears. Time passed minute by minute. The last bit of afterglow disappeared on the edge, and the entire Hanshuan palace was as silent as death. The sedan chair swayed and picked up Duan Yuan. Lin Shuiyao subconsciously stood beside me. Can she come back alive? I looked at her with some amusement. You ask me. She was stunned. I wish you all died here. Lin Shuiyao raised her eyes in astonishment. She said eagerly, now that the situation is urgent, do you still care about those grievances in the past? It's just a small fight, and if you don't pay attention now, you will really die. Little fight? I don't think she has a good brain. What you say is to put others in the toilet. Is it forcing others to drink dirty water? To make people take insulting photos without dignity and then mock the threats? Every time I asked, she couldn't help but take a step back. Lin Shuiyao's back hit the pillar, her eyes widened and she couldn't say a word. I took a deep breath. Therefore, I am disgusted when I see you. You are dead. I am too late to be happy. Lin Shuiyao was alone, and she didn't dare to dangle in front of me anymore. In a flash, people don't know where they have gone. I paused and turned to walk towards the kitchen. The osmanthus cake I just made in the afternoon has disappeared without a trace at this time. 6. Duan Yuan did not die. But being imprisoned in a dungeon, life is worse than death. When the news reached back to the Hanshuan palace, I hesitated for less than a second before turning around and returning to the room, and began to pack my baggage. Duan Yuan thought that I had a friendship with him, so he stole the osmanthus cake I made, wanting to make a living for himself. But it doesn't work. Yuan Yu doesn't miss the old feelings at all. Then I don't need to tempt to die anymore. Since I can't take the clear road out of the palace, then I can only find another way. The palace is very large and the guards patrol and guard it loosely and tightly. I know an escape route. The chance of success is not high, only 40%. But I have to try it too. Finally, when it got dark, I was about to go out with my baggage on my back when someone grabbed my sleeve. Lin Shuiyao looked at me with a panicked face. Are you leaving? Can you take me with you? You take me. Otherwise, I will call someone over now, and we will die together. She was also frightened by Duan Yuan's fate. I hate her for making a mistake. But the matter is urgent, and there is no time to plan for the long term. I warned her, if you dare to hold me back, I will kill you before I die. Lin Shuiyao didn't dare to speak, and just nodded keepingly. I ignored her anymore and quietly went out while it was dark according to the route I remembered. The night was like ink, so heavy that it couldn't melt away. I took Lin Shuiyao and carefully shuttled through the shadows of the palace. The heartbeat was like a drum, and every footstep, and even every breath, seemed to be particularly clear, as if it could attract countless pursuers. My memory of this road comes from 3 years ago, when it was remote and few people, and the patrolling guards were often perfunctory, which was an imperceptible gap in the palace's defense network. But tonight, everything is strangely uneasy. The further you go, the stronger the feeling that something is wrong. It's so quiet. Even the noisy buzzing of insects disappeared, only the whimpering of the wind through the corridor. In the distance, in what should have been dark, the halo of torches was faintly shaking, and there was a faint sound of metal armor rubbing. I stopped abruptly and dragged Lin Shuiyao, who was following me right behind me, into the hollow of a rockery. The cold and damp stones pressed against his back, and the chill instantly spread all over his body. What? What's wrong? Lin Shuiyao's voice trembled uncontrollably. I covered her mouth, held my breath, and carefully poked half my head out to look out. I saw that on the only way to the abandoned palace garden ahead, the area that should have been empty was standing at least 2 rows of guards with open fire at this moment. They looked solemn, stood with their knives, and blocked the way so tightly that not even a fly could fly over. How could this be? How could this road suddenly be under martial law? Is it a coincidence, or is it coming at us? An ominous premonition seized me, and my heart fell frantically. Lin Shuiyao also saw the scene over there. She gasped, her body softened, and she didn't collapse to the ground thanks to me. Back! Go back! She broke free from me suddenly, her face faded. Let's go back. We'll be discovered. We'll be killed. Like Jiang Min. Like Duan Yuan. I'm not running. I want to go back to the Spring Palace. She was incoherent, and her fear of death overwhelmed her, and she turned to retreat the same way, as if returning to that magnificent cage would bring temporary safety. Don't move. I shouted lowly, trying to pull her. But it was too late. The moment she turned around and stepped out of the hollow. Wow! A sharp sound of breaking the air tore through the dead night. The voice was extremely fast, extremely sharp, with a cold breath of death. I couldn't even see the trajectory of the arrow clearly, only a muffled sound, like a blunt object piercing something. Lin Shuiyao's movements suddenly froze. She staggered and lowered her head in disbelief, looking at her chest. A cold metal arrow penetrated straight out of her heart. She opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but only a stream of blood bubbled out. The horror in his eyes has not yet dissipated, but the vitality has passed rapidly. She fell forward softly, smashing it on the cold bluestone slab with a pop sound, and there was no more life. It happened so fast that my mind went blank. My gaze suddenly lifted in the direction of the arrow. On the palace wall not far away, a dark figure bathed in the cold moonlight. He was tall and upright, holding a huge iron bow in his hand, and the bowstring was still trembling slightly. It is Yuan Yu. He was looking down with his eyes down, expressionless. That look was so cold that there was no wave, as if what was just shot was an ice or mosquito fly, not a fresh human life. His gaze passed over Lin Shuiyao's still warm body, and locked on me accurately and firmly hidden in the shadow of the rockery. The 4 eyes met. At that moment my blood seemed to be frozen, and even my breathing stopped. 7. Yuan Yu slowly put down his iron bow and threw it to the guards behind him. Step by step, he walked down from the shadow of the palace wall, and finally stopped in front of me, just 1 step away from me. I froze in place, unable to move my fingertips. Unexpectedly, he seemed to be in a good mood. There was even a faint smile on the corner of his lips, which was different from the coldness of the other person who had just drawn his bow and killed him. He leaned over slightly, approached me, and his voice was low, with an almost playful inquiry. "Do you know a palace maid named Asu?" My heart shrank suddenly. How could you not know each other? Asu. That was the name I used here the last time I crossed over. Seeing that I didn't answer, he was not annoyed but laughed. He straightened up and continued to himself, as if he was just recalling an interesting past event. She once swore to me that she had found a top-secret way to slip out of the palace without realizing it, and she said that if one day she couldn't get along in the palace, she would take me away with her, but unfortunately, she broke her word. He paused, his eyes swept over the strict guards around him, and his tone was brisk. "So after I ascended the throne, the first thing I did was to send someone to block the road," she said, "inside and out, tightly blocked, heavily guarded, and not a single mouse would want to get out." I looked up in astonishment. Yuan focused his eyes on my face again, and those deep eyes were filled with emotions that I couldn't understand. There was nostalgia, there was scrutiny, and there was a hint of crazy. Slowly, word by word, he said to me, "Long time no see, Asu." This sentence exploded in my head like a thunderbolt. Did he recognize it? How could he recognize it? This body, this face, is not at all similar to Asu in the past. I pretended to be stupid. "What do you mean, Your Majesty?" The slave doesn't understand. Before I could react, he had lost his patience for reminiscing, and waved his hand. "Take it away, be light, don't scare her." Two guards stepped forward and helped me, one left and one right. I had no room for struggle, and was carried by them like a puppet, leaving this bloody land of death. Inside the Yongxin Hall, Yuan didn't kill me, nor did he torture me, but just looked at me for a long time with a complicated and indistinguishable gaze. Just when I couldn't support it a little, he seemed tired or bored, and waved my hand to let me go to the side hall to rest. "If I am pardoned, I am about to retreat." I heard him murmur very softly, "Are you so afraid of me?" My scalp was numb, so I pretended not to hear it and quickly left. A sleepless night, in extreme fear and chaotic thoughts until dawn. The next morning, the imperial decree went straight to the Hanshuan Hall. The chief eunuch came in person, with a flattering smile on his face, and his thin voice sounded high. "Emperor Feng Tianqingyun," the edict said, "Xiao Nu Song, intelligent in nature, gentle and virtuous, deeply won my heart, specially canonized as a nobleman, and was given to live in the Lanyue Palace. Respectfully this." I knelt on the ground to receive the order, my palms covered in cold sweat. Lanyue Palace. It was a palace garden very close to the Yongxin Hall, and it was very gorgeous. I became a nobleman in song. From a showgirl who could be executed at any time, she became a new nobleman in the harem, with an independent and magnificent palace. Duan Yuan was worse off than death in the dungeon. Jiang Min and Lin Shuiyao became cold corpses, but I got grace and became a nobleman. A great sense of absurdity and deeper fear overwhelmed me. "Yuan Yu, what do you want to do?" He kept me by his side, like leaving behind a living specimen that showed his dark past, a boredom plaything that could be crushed at any time. On the first day I lived in Lanyue Palace, I was restless in unprecedented luxury, and prying eyes from all directions. 8. In the first few days of living in Lanyue Palace, I was like a startled bird, and any bit of wind and grass could make me break out in a cold sweat. However, nothing happened. The days were strangely calm. The palace people are respectful, and the food and clothing are excellent. Yuan did not come again, but the rewards of the heart cultivation hall were sent from time to time. Sometimes it is a new folk mechanism toy, sometimes it is a strange gem paid by Fanbang, and more often, it is a variety of exquisite and delicious snacks. My tense nerves relaxed little by little, and at least I could sleep peacefully in Lanyue Palace. Later, Yuan began to come over. It's always in the evening, when the setting sun paints the sky a warm orange. He didn't let people pass it on, and always appeared quietly, which startled me. He never mentioned sleeping, he just let me eat with him. The food was placed on the stone table in my yard, and he ate quietly, occasionally asking me a question or two of, is it to my taste, and am I used to living here, in a flat tone like an ordinary person's greeting. After eating, he sometimes rested on the lounge chair in my courtyard for a while, watching the palace people light the lanterns under the corridor without saying anything. I was standing next to it or sitting at a distance, and there was a strange peace in the atmosphere. After a long time, I even had the illusion that the one-shot Lin Shuya, the gloomy and unpredictable tyrant, and the man in front of me who ate quietly and occasionally looked at the starry sky in a daze, were not the same person. The guard was slowly worn away in the dull day after day. Until that day. He came again, and after dinner, he suddenly spoke, and his voice could not hear the emotion, "Can you cook?" I forced myself to calm down. "Back to your majesty, you know a little bit about it, but you can't compare to the master in the imperial dining room." "It's okay," he said lightly, "go make a osmanthus cake for me to taste." I couldn't refuse. When I brought a plate of osmanthus cake that was not perfectly shaped to Yuan Yu, he picked up a piece, looked at it carefully, and then took a small bite. He chewed slowly, then frowned slightly. "It's so sweet." He put down the remaining half piece and said in a flat tone, "I'm tired of panicking, it's not as delicious as before." Maybe it was the peace that paralyzed me in the past few days, or maybe his disgusted tone was very much like the little Yuzi, who was picky back then, and I almost subconsciously blurted out to retort. "Impossible. The amount of sugar and the steps are exactly the same as before." As soon as the words were spoken, I froze. The yard was terribly quiet, only the rustling of leaves in the wind, and the sound of my heartbeat like a drum. Then, I heard a low laugh. The laughter went from low to high, with an almost pleasant joy, and finally got what he wanted. Yuan Yu smiled, his shoulders trembling slightly. He laughed for a while before slowly stopping. He stood up, approached me, who was stiff, and said in a proud and playful tone, "Look, Foxtail, isn't this exposed?" I opened my mouth and couldn't even say a word of defense. Yuan Yu's tone was relaxed. "Ah Su, look, you are still so stupid as before." "Yes, stupid." He cheated on me casually. "Tell me," he sat back in his chair, looking at me leisurely, "what the hell is going on?" I know, I can't hide it. So I was forced to admit the absurd and bizarre fact with difficulty. I am Asu, but not exactly Asu. I am from another world, but I once spent 3 years warming each other in the palace of this world when he was still just little Ikuko. This story is absurd, but it is also very short-lived. After I finished speaking, Yuan Yu nodded, "Finished. It's over." He stretched his waist with a relaxed demeanor. "Then I am leaving, and I will go to court tomorrow morning." I was a little surprised. "You believe it so much?" "Yes." He looked at me. "Asu never lied to me, did he?" 9. After confessing his identity, Yuan Yu's attitude towards me was the same as ever. Our relationship seems to have returned to the 3 years we spent in the cold palace. Sometimes I even think that if I eat and drink all day long, no one has bullied me, then it seems that there is nothing wrong with me accompanying him in this palace. In places I don't know, the palace people are spreading rumors that His Majesty seems to be less brutal and murderous recently. Especially when I just came out of Lanyue Palace, some people saw His Majesty smiling. Also, there was a little eunuch who was too nervous and accidentally spilled tea, and Songgyran said something casually, and His Majesty didn't punish him anymore. Songgyran is favored. These words became more and more widespread among the palace people. The palace people who were on duty at Lanyue Palace also became more and more attentive to me. One day a palace maid knelt in front of me in panic. "Please save my mother." She cried so much that her eyes were red. The slave has a sister who works as an errand boy in the imperial study, and she has made His Majesty unhappy because she is not aware for a while, and she is about to be dragged down and beaten to death. Please save her life. I was stunned for a moment. So, what wrong did she do? The palace maid lowered her head with a guilty conscience. It's just a trivial matter caused by some carelessness. While speaking, someone came to report, and the chief eunuch came to deliver things again. I thought about it and went out to find him. It seemed that he unintentionally asked the palace maid who was causing trouble. The chief eunuch snorted coldly. That's a person who doesn't have long eyes or a long heart, serving in front of His Majesty, and dares to have other thoughts. She does things for the one in Finchi Palace. Do you really think your Majesty doesn't know? Oh, I see. The palace maid was bought by the Queen Mother, and became the Queen Mother's eyeliner placed next to His Majesty. That is, she died herself. Sending away the chief eunuch, I ordered someone to send the interceding palace maid out. I can't help with this. When working as an errand boy in the palace, the most important and basic thing is the word loyalty. She can't even do this, who can save her? And I'm not sure how safe I am. But after this incident, I also know that the tense relationship between Yuan Yu and the current Queen Mother is not groundless. There are rumors in the palace that Qi Gairen hanged herself in the cold palace at the beginning, but there was actually another secret. When Yuan Yu came in the evening, he saw that I was absent-minded. He followed my gaze and looked over. I saw the shallow blood stains on the hem of my clothes. Calmly covering it, he pushed the snacks on the table in front of me. Try the new ones in the imperial dining room. My attention was drawn to the exquisite-looking snacks. It looks a bit like a longevity cake, with 2 more layers and brightly carved flowers on top. As I was looking, there was a sudden loud noise in the sky. I was startled and looked up. Fireworks bloom brilliantly in the air. If I remember correctly, today is your birthday. He said, I haven't seen the birthday cake you mentioned, but based on your description, I asked the people in the imperial dining room to try to make one. I was stunned and curled up with my fingers on the table. Birthday? I almost forgot about it myself. Traveling through 2 worlds, struggling to survive, who will remember this kind of day? But he remembered. I remember the birthday cake I casually mentioned when I was talking about my hometown, while distributing steamed buns to him in the corner of the cold palace many years ago. Fireworks were still blooming in the night sky, and the brilliant light reflected his deep eyes, and there seemed to be some kind of careful tenderness that I had never seen before. A sour rush rushed into my nasal cavity, and my eyes instantly became hot. I hurriedly lowered my head and took a big bite of the so-called cake disguisedly. The taste is very strange, not as soft as the cake, sweet and greasy, and the carving is probably made of sugar, hard to the teeth. Just good-looking but not tasty at all. But I still ate it all seriously, 1 bite at a time. My throat was choked with sweet and inexplicable emotions. Thank you. My voice was a little hoarse, it's delicious. Yuan Yu looked at me, the corners of his mouth curled slightly. He handed me a handkerchief and met my blank gaze, and he pointed to the corner of his mouth. I quickly took it and rubbed it on my mouth a few times. Cheeks are a little hot. Yuan Yu waited for me to finish wiping, stood up slowly, and calmed down again, finished eating. Then go to a place with me. I hadn't completely withdrawn from my emotions just now, so I subconsciously got up and followed him. He didn't bring an entourage, only a palace lamp, and led me on the increasingly remote palace road. The surrounding air gradually became cold and damp, mixed with a faint smell of rust and decay. My heart skipped a beat, and I vaguely guessed where this was going. Eventually, we stopped in front of a heavy iron door. The jailer guarding the gate saw him, knelt down silently and saluted, and then quickly opened the door. An eerie and gloomy dungeon passage appeared in front of him. Yuan Yu kept walking and went straight to a cell in the deepest part. He motioned for the jailer to open the prison door. The strong smell of blood and stench hit my face, and my stomach churned, and I subconsciously covered my mouth and nose. In the corner of the cell, a dark shadow moved. That can hardly be called a person. She was ragged, covered in blood and scars, her hair was dirty and stuck to her face, and almost no piece of skin was exposed. She collapsed there like a pile of mud, only the slight undulating chest proved that she was alive. Hearing the movement, she raised her head extremely slowly and with difficulty. Under the messy hair, a swollen and deformed face, but the outline is vaguely recognizable. It's Duan Yuan. Her eyes were empty and numb at first, but after seeing that it was me, the emptiness was instantly filled with extreme fear and despair. She seemed to see a life-saving straw, and seemed to see the impermanence of desperation, and a ho-ho bellows-like sound came from her throat, struggling to crawl towards me, but she was tripped by heavy shackles and could only stretch out a dirty, swollen hand with outturned nails in vain. Song. Song Wu. Her voice was almost inaudible, full of blood. Kill me. Please. Kill me. Let me die. I'm sorry for you, I shouldn't have bullied you, I deserve to die, I beg you, kill me. She begged repeatedly, with all her last strength. I stood there with cold hands and feet. Yuan Yu stood beside me, his voice calm, as if talking about the weather. How she bullied you in the first place. I asked people to pay her back 10 times 100 times. I was stunned. How do you know? The first showgirl, what's your name? He thought for a while. Oh, Jiangmin. She was not frightened, she asked casually, and she asked them all. So he knows my past well. So he left Duan Yuan alive. It was to let me take revenge with my own hands. He looked sideways at me, and in the dim light, the profile of his face looked a little cold and hard. Now he paused, his tone even gentle. Tell me, what do you want to do with her? Should I keep it or it? His words were not finished, but the meaning could not be clearer. Duan Yuan's plea became even more mournful and sharp. She kowtowed desperately, her forehead hit the cold and dirty ground, and made a dull sound. Kill me. Song Wu. Give me a good time. Please. I know wrong. I really know I'm wrong. I looked at her. Looking at this bully who was once high, stepped me into the mud, played with my life, and refused to let me go even after graduation. Watching her twist and beg on the ground like a maggot at the moment, just begging for death. There is no imaginary pleasure or pity in the heart, only a huge, cold emptiness and absurdity. I was silent for a long time. Only Duan Yuan's desperate whimpering and the collision of shackles were left in the dungeon. Finally, I raised my head and looked at Yuan Yu, my voice dry and calm. Let her die. Yuan Yu didn't seem surprised, but nodded lightly, as if I had just decided to trample an ant to death. He didn't even give a look to the jailer next to him, but raised his finger extremely slightly. The jailer immediately understood and stepped forward expressionlessly. At this moment, Duan Yuan's eyes burst out with an almost grateful and relieved light. I didn't look any further, turned around and walked out of the cell. Behind him, there was an extremely brief muffled sound that was forcibly strangled by something, and the last crisp sound of the chains falling to the ground. Then, everything returns to death. Walking out of the dungeon, the cold wind in the middle of the night came to my face, and I took a sharp breath, but I still felt a lot of suffocation in my chest. Yuan Yu followed behind me, and handed the dim palace lamp to me. Aren't you happy to get revenge? He asked, with a hint of doubt in his tone. I looked at the jumping flames of the palace lanterns for a long time, before shaking my head slightly. I don't know. I honestly replied, I just think. It's not interesting. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly raised his hand, and extremely naturally wiped away a cold tear that had slipped down to my cheeks at some point. Then don't think about it. His movements were light, and his fingertips carried a hint of the coolness of the night breeze. With me in the future, I will not let anyone bully you again. His voice was calm, but with an unquestionable strength. I looked up at him, the halo of the palace lamp softened his overly sharp silhouette, and those eyes that were always full of gloom and unpredictability reflected the little me, and a little faint light at this moment. My heart, after this mess and bloodshed, suddenly beat irrepressibly and violently. This man is a tyrant that everyone fears. This person does a lot of evil and kills like a hemp. However, he was also the only one who remembered my birthday. Will make me a cake. I will remember the suffering I have suffered and think about the people I want to get back. But if he treats me well, I want to be good to him. At this moment, a thought suddenly welled up in my heart. A terrible thought. If so, he was not destined to die a good death. In his still peaceful life, I want to be with him. Until the end. Fall into the 18th level of hell with him. I am selfish and have never been a saint. 10. In the second year of becoming a nobleman in the Song dynasty, the Queen Mother finally couldn't help but come to me. She ordered someone to lead me to the lake center pavilion. The lake pavilion is surrounded by water on all sides, and only a 9-curved corridor connects it, making it an extremely secluded and convenient place for conversation. The Queen Mother did not wear complicated palace clothes, only plain and elegant clothes, with a simple hosta on her head. She retreated left and right, leaving only me and her in the pavilion. Songgyran, are you still used to it in the palace? She spoke, her voice soft, with concern. The AI family heard that your majesty has. It's quite different. I lowered my eyes and replied cautiously, Queen Mother Lao is worried, everything is fine. The Queen Mother sighed softly, and her sigh was full of helplessness and pity. Child, in front of the AI family, there is no need to pretend. Within this palace wall, who doesn't know His Majesty's temperament? He treats you specially, which may not be a blessing. The AI family heard that the people serving around you were all personally selected by your majesty, and every move was under his control. What is the difference from imprisonment? I blinked and didn't speak. She was right, Lan Yue Palace seems to be beautiful, but in fact Yuan Yu's eyeliner is everywhere. I enjoy the shelter and specialty he gives, and naturally I live under the watchful eye everywhere. But I don't care. The AI family can't bear to see you young, so you are trapped in this golden cage. The Queen Mother's voice was lowered, with a seductive power. If you want to leave, the AI family can help you. I was stunned and looked up at her. The Queen Mother's eyes were loving and sincere, as if she was really just an elder who felt sorry for her juniors. But I didn't miss the flash of light and calculation in the depths of her eyes. How could a woman who could stand tall in the harem of the late emperor and become the Empress Dowager take the risk of helping an emperor's favored concubine escape just because she couldn't bear it? This is so abnormal. Why does the Queen Mother want to help the concubine? I asked directly, my eyes locking her expression tightly. The Queen Mother seemed to have expected me to ask this, and a look of sadness and fear appeared on her face, as if she remembered something extremely terrible. Because, Your Majesty, he is not as simple as the world thinks. Her voice trembled slightly, and her body seemed to tremble slightly with fear. He is a devil. She took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind, approached me, and said in a voice that almost only the two of us could hear, Do you think Songgyran really died in an accident? No. No, it's not. My heart beat faster. Back then, it was Yuan Yu. It was he who set fire to his biological mother Songgyran with his own hands. My pupils shrank, and I looked at her in disbelief. The Queen Mother had tears in her eyes, but she had a bone-chilling chill. He won the sympathy and love of the late emperor for this matter, and deliberately pretended to be sick in bed, which led the late emperor to visit. Only then did I accidentally see the water control policy that he had already prepared and put on his desk. Since then, he has truly entered the sight of the late emperor, step by step. I've come to where I am today. Her words were like a cold awl piercing into my mind. The Queen Mother carefully observed my reaction, and seeing that my face was pale, obviously greatly shocked, she continued with satisfaction, Such a person who can even kill his biological mother cruelly, what else can't he do? When he killed his mother, he was also witnessed by a palace maid who called Asu, and he also cruelly silenced him, and he was only 17 years old at the time, and his hands were already full of blood. I was stunned for a moment and glanced at her in astonishment. At this point, it is certain that she is lying. Child, if you stay with him, if you are favored today, you may be shattered tomorrow. The mourning family is really. I can't bear to see the tragedy repeat itself. she said, taking out a small white jade porcelain bottle from her sleeve and stuffing it into my cold hand. The medicine in this bottle is colorless and tasteless, just add a small amount to the tea, and it can make him fall into a deep sleep, and he will not wake up for at least 6 hours. She held my hand tightly, her tone was eager and sincere. Only when he is asleep will you have the opportunity to get the waist card he carries with you, and can pass through the palace, and the people arranged by the AI family can pick you up outside the palace and send you out of the place of right and wrong. Queen Mother. I need to think about. My voice trembled and I looked distracted. The Queen Mother nodded tolerantly and patted the back of my hand. Good boy, the AI family knows that this matter is sudden, so go back and think about it. But remember, the opportunity is fleeting, so make a decision early. For your own sake. After she finished speaking, Tu said no more, turned around and slowly left the lake pavilion. I stood alone in the pavilion, the lake breeze blew, but I couldn't dispel the coldness and fog in my heart. The white jade porcelain bottle in my hand was like a soldering iron, burning my palms painfully. 11. I had a dream. I dreamed of the 3rd year I first traveled here. I was woken up by a wild cat at night to find thunder and lightning outside, and a rainstorm was coming. I thought of Xiao Yuzi, who once said that the house he lived in was leaking, and I was afraid that he would get sick, so I got up to look for him, ready to let him come to me for the night first. But when I came to Kulingxian, I saw the fire soaring into the sky. A dark shadow stumbled towards me, and behind him, many forbidden soldiers followed. I am so familiar with Yuan Yu that I can see his figure at a glance. I don't know what crime he has committed, I just subconsciously want to save my only friend here. So I pushed him, run over there. I, on the other hand, led some of the forbidden troops in the opposite direction. That night, I ran out of strength. In the end, he was shot in the calf by an arrow and fell into the lotus pond on the side. No one came to save me. Seeing that he was chasing the wrong person, the forbidden army changed direction. I sank to the bottom of the pool little by little. When I opened my eyes again, I traveled back to my own world. I woke up from a dream. I never fell asleep again. The Queen Mother said that Asu was silenced by Yuan Yu. But how I died, I don't know myself. As for her other words, I can't tell if it's true or false. When it was just dawn, the door was gently pushed open. Someone came in with an air conditioner. I opened my eyes gently and watched Yuan Yu standing by the candlelight, warming my hands until I warmed them up, and then turned around lightly. The light was dim, and he didn't notice that I was awake. He gently lifted the corner of my quilt and was about to come up, but when he looked up, he looked at me directly. The king, who has always been happy and angry, will actually show a shy look. Just for a moment, it calmed down. It got into my quilt extremely naturally. I watched the performance all night, and I was a little tired, so come and rest here. Don't you have a bed in the hall of Yangxin? I can't sleep, it's space. He came closer to me again and put his hand on my waist. Ah Su, you are warm here. No wonder I always felt that sleeping at night was strange a few days ago. Looking at Yuan Yu's familiar appearance, I'm afraid I don't know how many times I've been here secretly. He really looked tired, so I stopped talking and let him hold me like this. But he didn't fall asleep either. Ah Su, you have something on your mind. So determined. I hesitated for a long time, and finally couldn't help but turn over and sit up. I want to ask you something. Yuan Yu closed his eyes. You ask. How did Qi Gairen die back then? Yuan Yu was silent for a long time, and the hand on my waist remained unmoved. Just when I thought he was asleep, I heard him talk. The mother and concubine committed suicide. That night, she suddenly woke up and lit the curtain with a candle by herself. I want to save her, but she doesn't want to come out with me. As soon as Yuan Yu closed his eyes, he could recall the scene of that year. The mother and concubine stood in a sea of fire. On his face was a peaceful smile he hadn't seen in a long time. She said she was relieved. She said she was finally able to escape from the cannibalistic palace. Yuan Yu's forehead rested lightly on my shoulder. "Ah Su, what did the Queen Mother say to you?" I'm not surprised that he knows that I've seen the Queen Mother. Originally, I didn't want to hide it from him. She said she could help me leave. Do you want to leave? I don't want to. Yuan Yu was stunned. Why? Because no one cares about me except you. Yuan Yu hooked his lips. I am still the emperor now, and I still hold power. If you want, I can find talented people and send you back to your own world. Even so, don't you want to leave? I fell silent. Yuan Yu's hand on my waist gradually withdrew. The next second, I got into the quilt and turned over and hugged him. Yuan Yu, I have been an orphan since I was a child. Being funded to grow up and study, the world I live in is said to be equal for everyone, but everyone is not equal. I'm there still being looked down upon and bullied. I have nothing to bear. But here, I'm a little reluctant to part with you. Xiao Yuzi protected me back then, and His Majesty now also protects me. I am not a white-eyed wolf, I know who is good to me. I sniffed and rubbed my face against his arm. So don't drive me away. Yuan Yu's body was a little stiff. He slowly raised his hand and touched my head. The voice was a little tight. I can protect you, but Asu, do you have anything to repay me? I thought for a while and said solemnly, I will divide half of the bed in the Moon Palace with you. Yuan Yu smiled, okay. That's enough. Yuan Yu's body smells very good. I smelled it and it didn't take long for me to fall asleep. In a daze, I felt a warmth on my forehead. It seemed that he heard a soft sigh again. Ah Su, remember to wait for me. 12. When I woke up, it was bright. And I was in the carriage out of the city. I slowed down for a long time before I reacted, lifted the curtain, and saw the coachman's face. The chief eunuch drove the carriage. Is the lady awake? Get into the car quickly, don't fall. I grabbed the edge of the window, slammed into it, my fingertips turning white with force. Where is this? I want to go back. The chief eunuch did not look back, but turned his face slightly. Mother, your majesty has an order. You must send you out of the city to a safe place. Safety? What happened in the palace? My heart was beating hard, and an ominous premonition gripped me. Your majesty was fine last night. The carriage did not slow down, bumping on the dirt road outside the palace. The chief eunuch was silent for a moment, and finally sighed. His voice was very low, as if he was afraid of being heard by the wind. Mother, in the palace. It's going to change. The long-standing grudge between the Empress Dowager and your majesty has deepened, and now is the time to seek the end of the dagger. If you stay in the palace, your majesty will inevitably be distracted, and the Queen Mother will definitely make a fuss about you. My heart was like being clenched by a cold hand. Accumulated grudges. Because of the death of the nobleman of Qi. The chief eunuch shook his head, with a hint of complicated sarcasm on his face. The death of Qi Gairen is just the tip of the iceberg. Mother, do you know why the Queen Mother is so afraid of your majesty, and why she is deliberately trying to get rid of your majesty? He paused as if organizing the language. Queen Mother. She looked at the kind eyebrows and kind eyes, and the mother was the world, but whose hands are really clean within this palace wall? There was deep disgust in his voice. Back then, before Qi Gairen entered the palace, he had a like-minded fiancée in his hometown in Jiangnan. The two are childhood sweethearts, just waiting for the wedding date. I held my breath. But when the late emperor made a southern tour, he happened to see the appearance of Qi Gairen, and he was amazed, and he was about to be included in the palace immediately. The queen at that time, that is, the current Queen Mother, saw the mind of the late emperor, and in order to achieve her virtuous reputation of tolerance and generosity, taking the initiative to share worries for the king, she personally came forward to coerce and tempt the Qi family. The voice of the chief eunuch became cold. Although the Qi family is a small official, they are also clear, and at first they did not want their daughter to enter the palace as a concubine, let alone break the contract. It was the Empress Dowager, who promised high-ranking officials and generous salaries, and threatened the future of the whole family. In the end, it was the Queen Mother who personally sent Chigiron to the late Emperor's dragon bed. I was chilled all over. But that's not enough. The tone of the chief eunuch became more and more cold. After Chigiron entered the palace, because of his appearance and temperament, he was indeed favored by the late emperor for a period of time, and the Empress Dowager couldn't sit still again. How could she tolerate someone threatening her status? So he secretly designed and framed the stolen goods, so that Chigiron angered Long Yen, and was finally beaten into the cold palace and depressed for the rest of his life. I thought of Yuan Yu's understatement last night, the mother and concubine committed suicide. Thinking of what despair must be behind the fire that a mother chooses to leave her child in that way. The seemingly merciful Queen Mother is behind all this misfortune. Your Majesty. Know this since you were a child. My voice trembled a little. Your Majesty is smart, and you grew up in the cold palace and other places, and you have seen the heat and coldness of the world, and the people's hearts are ghostly. When he was very young, he vaguely found out the truth. The chief eunuch sighed. Over the years, Your Majesty and the Queen Mother have been filial to their mothers and sons on the surface, but secretly they have long been like water and fire. The Empress Dowager's mother's family was powerful, intertwined, and controlled the government for many years. After His Majesty ascended the throne, he endured it, laid out little by little, secretly collected criminal evidence, and removed his henchmen. He paused, with a hint of helplessness and resentment in his voice. How can the Empress Dowager's family sit still? When they saw that His Majesty was gaining wings, they began to fight back by any means. On the one hand, I stumbled on His Majesty in the court, and on the other hand, it is to spread Your Majesty's tyranny, mutilation, and moodiness of your remarks, impose many unwarranted charges on Your Majesty, tarnish Your Majesty's reputation, and make the people of the world fear and spurn Your Majesty. I suddenly realized. It turned out that many of those terrible rumors about tyrants were deliberately smeared by the Queen Mother's party. Yuan Yu's ruthlessness may be true, but he is by no means a person who kills indiscriminately for no reason. He was using his own way to clean up the moths and enemies in this decaying palace. Your Majesty. Facing these. Alone. My heart hurt like a needle prick. How did he get over the years? Yes. The chief eunuch's voice was full of emotion. Your Majesty is not easy. So Mother, Your Majesty asked you to leave to protect you. This storm has been planned by Your Majesty for a long time, and you must not lose it, nor let you become his weakness. The carriage was still galloping, getting farther and farther away from the palace. I looked back, and the majestic palace wall looked particularly solemn and depressing in the morning light. There is a life and death struggle going on there. And Yuan Yu pushed me out, but he himself stayed in the center of the storm. I want to go back and be with him. Win or lose, live or die. But reason tells me no. I went back. I can only be his weakness, and will hold him back. Lowering the curtain a little weakly, I said softly, then, there is a labor father-in-law. 13. After the chief eunuch sent me to a hidden village on the outskirts of Beijing, he took people back to the palace. He is really loyal to Yuan Yu. I don't often hear outside voices here. Only occasionally a salesman passed by the gate of the courtyard. They sighed. I don't know why, but the inspection in the city has been stricter recently. I don't know what's wrong with the capital, those nobles don't come out. I heard that the Queen Mother's birthday is coming, many princes have entered the city, and some generals have also been recalled. Alas, it's better to go out less recently. Listening to their words, I guessed the situation outside. Uncontrollably, I can always think of Yuan Yu. How is he doing? Or do you see the middle of the night when you look at the fold? Does he still have headaches at night so much that he can't sleep? Is it still safe? Seeing that I was absent-minded, the aunt who was cleaning on the side joked with me, "Girl, is this thinking about your sweetheart?" For security reasons, my identity is kept confidential here. The servants on Zhuangzi are all bought now, and they don't know where I came from. I smiled. Yes, I'm thinking about him. The ant laughed, the girl is not twisted at all. If you like someone and miss someone, it's not a shame, so why bother twisting it? I looked up at the sky. I don't know when the dark clouds slowly gathered. Gloomy. At night, I slept restlessly, and my heart always felt like a stone was pressing down. Suddenly, I was woken up by a sharp knock on the door and panicked shouts. Girl! Girl, wake up! Oh no! It was the ant's voice with fear. I sat up abruptly, what's wrong? As soon as I opened the door, my aunt grabbed my arm, her face turned pale, and her voice trembled, fight, fight. It's full of soldiers outside. Cut people when they see them. Fast. Come with me. She was so strong that she almost dragged me out. The other servants in the yard were also awakened and made a mess, with women's screams and men's terrified cries mixed together. In the distance, there was a faint sound of thunderous hooves, the piercing sound of weapons clashing, and the vague but murderous shouts, which were surging like a tide from far to near. The fire flickered in the distant sky, reflecting half of the night sky. Quick! Into the cellar. All go in. The housekeeper was quite calm and commanded everyone to open a hidden entrance in the yard. My aunt pulled me and staggered into the cold and damp cellar with the crowd. It was crowded with people, and the air was dirty. The cellar door was closed from the outside, and the last ray of light disappeared, leaving only the pent-up gasps and sobbings in the dark. What's going on? Why did you suddenly start fighting? Is it the tyrant in the palace? What big man did you kill and cause anger and resentment? A trembling voice guessed. Definitely yes. I heard that he killed people without blinking, and even the Queen Mother dared to resist. You must have suffered retribution. Oh, what can I do? Will we die here? Listening to their words, my heart felt like it was being held tightly by an invisible hand, and I could hardly breathe in pain. No. I couldn't help but blurt out, my voice was particularly clear in the darkness, he's not that kind of person. He killed the people who deserved to be killed. It was those who harmed him and bullied him first. If he is really a tyrant for no reason, do you think there can still be peace in this world today? It should have been smoked a long time ago. The cellar instantly fell silent, and everyone looked in my direction in surprise. Girl! How do you know? The aunt's voice was doubtful. I choked up, unable to explain my relationship with Yuan Yu, and could only stubbornly repeat, I just know that he is not what you think. The sound of the outside world became clearer and clearer, and the sound of horses' hooves seemed to step on the top of the cellar, shaking the dirt to fall. The shouts and screams were endless. I hugged my knees tightly, buried my face in them, and my body trembled uncontrollably. I don't know when it started to rain. Yuan Yu. Yuan Yu, where are you? Are you safe? You must not be okay. You said let me wait for you. I prayed over and over again in my heart, fear and worry wrapped around my heart like vines, tightening more and more. This night was as long as a century had passed. We hid in the cellar in fear until dawn. The sounds outside gradually subsided, leaving only a dead silence, with occasional sporadic cries or two. After waiting for a long time and confirming that it seemed really safe outside, the housekeeper carefully pushed open the door to the cellar. The dazzling sunlight shone in, and everyone narrowed their eyes. We helped each other out of the cellar. The sight in front of us made us all gasp. The streets outside Zhuangzi were a mess, littered with broken weapons, flags, and dark red, dried blood. The air was filled with a strong smell of blood and burnt. The surviving people were earth-red, looking for something in the ruins with empty eyes. At this time, a group of soldiers wearing different types of armor ran by, shouting loudly as they ran, "The Queen Mother has passed away. Your Majesty! Your Majesty has also died. The rebels have been pacified by Princeton. Everyone waits, go home, and don't go out and make noise." The news exploded in my ears like a thunderbolt. Dowager! Your Majesty! Dead? Yuan Yu. He's dead. No. No way. I stumbled and was almost unsteady, but fortunately the ant next to me supported me. Girl. Are you okay? I couldn't hear anything, and the whole world was gone. Tears gushed out without warning, blurring my vision. He's dead. The Yuan Yu who would make me a cake, remember my birthday, comfort me awkwardly, and secretly climb onto my bed and say, "It's warm here." He's dead. He said that he would not let anyone bully me again, if he was with him in the future. He said, "Asu, remember to wait for me." Did he break his word? The great grief overwhelmed me in an instant, and I pushed my aunt away and walked forward in despair. I don't remember how I got back to that little yard. I locked myself in my room for a day and a night. In the early morning of the third day, the door was opened. I found an old piece of clothing that Yuan Yu had once left with me. On the hillside behind the yard, he dug up the soil little by little with his hands and built a tomb for him. There was no tombstone, I only found a rough wooden plaque, but I didn't know how to write. In the end, I just knelt in front of the small mound, tears falling into the soil drop by drop. Yuan Yu. You liar. My voice was hoarse and crying. You said you wouldn't lie to me. You said let me wait for your liar. Liar. Great sadness and emptiness consumed me, and I lay on the cold mound, crying uncontrollably. In the next moment, a familiar voice, with a hint of helplessness and a very light smile, sounded behind me. When did I lie to you? My crying stopped abruptly. The whole person froze in place as if he had been cast a spell. I didn't even dare to look back, fearing that it was just an illusion of my excessive sadness. Until a pair of warm hands gently supported my shoulders from behind and turned me around. The light of the morning light fell on him, outlining his clear and familiar silhouette. Yuan Yu stood in front of me, wearing ordinary coarse cloth clothes, and his face was even stained with a little dirt, but his eyes were amazingly bright. It contained a small smile and imperceptible fatigue. My eyes widened and I looked at him in disbelief, my lips trembling, but I couldn't say a word. He raised his hand and gently wiped the tears from my face with his fingertips, moving gently. It's just a scene of fake death. He explained in a low voice, his tone relaxed as if he was talking about a trivial matter. The Queen Mother and her brothers and nephews who supported their troops and respected themselves were resolved together last night. It's just that the noise is louder, which scares you. He paused, looked at the humble tomb of the crown, and the corners of his mouth curled. It's hard for you, and you built a grave for me. Only then did I suddenly come back to my senses, and the huge surprise and fear were intertwined, so I couldn't help but raise my hand and hit him. You bastard. I almost thought I really lost him. That heart-wrenching pain, I feel chills all over my body when I think about it now. He let me beat him, and gently hugged me into his arms. His arms carried the slight coolness of the night dew. Okay, it's okay. He whispered in my ear, his voice calm and reassuring, the foundation of the Queen Mother's party has been damaged, and Princeton will take care of the remaining small fish and shrimp. I raised my head from his arms and looked at him with teary eyes. Princeton. Yuan Yu nodded, looked in the direction of the imperial city, and said in a calm tone, he is a lineage of the emperor's uncle, he is smart and upright, and he cares about the people. He is more suitable for this throne than me. He withdrew his gaze and looked down at me, with a sense of relief and faint yearning in his eyes. Asu, I am not a good emperor, my methods are cruel, I have made too many enemies, and it is not a blessing for the country and the people to stay. It's good now. He hugged me gently, as if he was holding a lost treasure. From now on, I am no longer the emperor, just Yuan Yu. You said that your bed is half of mine, can this be counted? I looked at him, at this man who had faded his imperial aura, but his eyes were brighter than ever. I nodded vigorously and hugged him tightly. Make a number, always make a number. 14 Postscript. A few days later, an inconspicuous green canopy carriage quietly drove away from Zhuangzi on the outskirts of Beijing. Yuan Yu changed his name and surname, and now his name is Yuan Yu. He and I, as well as the chief eunuch pretending to be an old servant, now it's time to call butler Yuan, and we embarked on the road south together. The journey was tiring, but the mood was more relaxed than ever. Yuan Yu unloaded all the burdens, as if he was really just an ordinary husband accompanying his wife on a trip. The water town in Jiangnan is really picturesque. Our new home is located on a tranquil lake with white walls and a deep courtyard. Yuan Yu had already prepared everything. The house was spacious and elegant. There were not many servants, but they were all obedient, and when they saw us, they only respectfully called us master and ma'am. Butler Yuan took care of everything in an orderly manner, as if he was born to be a big housekeeper, serious and shrewd, and handled internal and external affairs properly. Yuan Yu loves to laugh a lot more than before. The days are peaceful and fulfilling. Sometimes he reads in his study, and it is an afternoon to look at it. Sometimes he would take me for a walk in the courtyard, point to the newly transplanted flowers and plants, and ask me for credit. More often than not, he simply accompanies me. I was studying Jiangnan's dim sum in the small kitchen, and he leaned against the door and watched, occasionally stuffing me with a piece of freshly baked pastry, maybe sweet or light, and then giving a serious evaluation. It's an improvement from before. He would say this every time, with a smile in his eyes. We go to the market like the most ordinary couple in the world. When it is drizzling, hold an oil paper umbrella, and walk slowly along the bluestone road, listening to the faint soft words of Wunong coming from the distance. No one knew who we were, and the neighbors only said that a young couple surnamed Yuan had just moved in. The family is wealthy, the feelings are very deep, and the talent and female appearance are really a good match. Occasionally, you can hear some news about the capital from past business travelers or new newspapers. Prince An successfully ascended the throne, and changed the era name to Yongjing. The new emperor was diligent in government and loved the people, vigorously eliminated the accumulated evils of the previous dynasty, and the remnants of the Empress Dowager's party were eliminated one after another, and the atmosphere of the government and the opposition was renewed. The people praised the benevolence of the new emperor, and at the same time, they occasionally mentioned the violent late emperor who was assassinated, and his words were mostly sighing or fearful, but gradually no one delved into it. Whenever this happened, Yuan Yu always listened, his face calm, as if it was really the story of another world and another person. Only once, I woke up at night and found that he was not around. When I went out, I saw him standing alone in the courtyard, looking at the northern starry sky with his hands on his back, and his figure looked a little lonely. I walked over silently, hugged his waist from behind, and pressed my face against his broad back. He paused slightly, then relaxed and covered my hand around his waist. "It's all over," I said softly. He responded in a low voice, turned around and hugged me into his arms, his chin gently pressed against the top of my hair. "I only think of it occasionally. But now it's good." His voice was relieved and satisfied. "Yes, good. There is no conspiracy, no bloody killing." Butler Yuan sometimes looked at us, watching his master clumsily try to give his wife a hairpin. Watching the lady pull the master in the yard to taste her new and strange snacks. His always serious face also shows a slightly imperceptible smile. The gloomy and forbearant young man in the cold palace in the past, the tyrant feared by everyone in the palace, finally found his only home and tranquility in this misty and rainy Jiangnan. End of full text.